In one weekend, I ran 4 races covering 30.4 miles, earned 5 unique race medals, 1 incredible finisher's jacket. This is the Gasparilla Distance Classic.
Good morning. It is 4:45, day 1 of the Gasparilla Distance Classic, making some much needed coffee to get things started for today. On the agenda, we've got the 15K kicking off at 6:45 this morning, followed by the 5K at 9:15. So first 2 races. First, it's that 12 miles of the 30 plus miles we'll be doing for the weekend. So a little slow getting started this morning, but just gotta keep moving forward. Cheers, y'all. It is just past 6:30 this morning, walking over to the pre-dawn start of the first race of this weekend, Gasparilla Distance Classic, the 15K. Excited about the race, most excited to get through this one. It's one of the longer ones, and I think the jitters I'm experiencing are a little bit more than what I was expecting. Again, this is just a fun run, no time goals or anything in mind, but I think I've been approaching this Michelob Ultra challenge considering all of the races individually, which don't seem that overwhelming if you take it race by race. 15K, 5K, 8K, half marathon, like none of these distances are too crazy, depending like for where I'm at in training. But it really didn't hit me until I would say like the start of this week, the gravity of doing all of those races back to back. So a little over 30 miles by midway through tomorrow afternoon. So the nice thing is, again, that distance sounds like a lot, but it is broken up. I'm just very interested to see how my legs are going to be feeling this time tomorrow once I've already got 12 miles in through 2 races and am staring down the barrel of the half marathon. So can't think about that right now. Just got to think about today's races again, taking it step by step, really enjoying the ride because, again, this is a fun run. It has been so fun already to be back in Tampa. Really excited to have my first race ever in Tampa since I've lived here for so long, and just trying to enjoy every mile. All right, first run and done. Thankfully, one of the longer distances, second to longest knocked off. I think I saw my favorite sign I've ever seen on a race. Not like a handmade sign, but an official race sign. There was a Jimmy Buffett quote, since everything's beach and pirate themed, and it said, "The good things in life take longer to see than the bad." And I was like, and it was like right at the halfway point. So I was like, that's very fun, and I feel like it's so true with racing because it sucks for so long, but then you're done and you're so happy. But what the struggle is now is I'm done and very happy, but I'm less than a third of the way done. So I get a little bit break. We have like 45 minutes till the next race, so quick snack, quick change, get ready to go. Two down, 2 to go. So today we had the 15K and the 5K. As I sort of expected, I ran today a little bit faster than I probably should have. I was at like an 8:20 pace for the 15K and then just under an 8-minute mile for the 5K. I kept it together, I feel like pretty good for the start, but then as it is with the races, like as you get close to the finish line, the adrenaline's building, like it was just a blast, and I was like, whatever, I'm gonna have fun, I'm gonna enjoy it, and we will pay for those decisions tomorrow. But so far, feeling pretty good. The races were fantastic. Logistically, so easy, courses are beautiful. I certainly understand why we have the very early start times, because it was definitely starting to get pretty hot towards the tail end of the 5K, but tomorrow we're starting 45 minutes earlier, so the half marathon starts at 6 a.m. and then we'll have a 5-miler 8K after that. But feeling good, legs are a little stiff. We are gonna recover with some local Cigar City beers and just try to enjoy the afternoon and try to get to sleep as early as possible, because that 4 a.m. wake up call will be here before we know it. A little bit of deja vu. It is 4 o'clock on Sunday morning. Today's races start 45 minutes earlier than yesterday, so the wake-up call is also 45 minutes earlier. Today's the harder day of the two. We've got the half marathon and the 8K, 5 miles, so total for the day is, what's that make? A little over 18 miles. So should be a good day, should be a challenging day. I am definitely exhausted. The legs are pretty sore, so we imagine would be the hardest part about this challenge, doing all of these distances back to back with enough time in between to really let the soreness and the stiffness and the fatigue set in. So we're gonna have our coffee, we're gonna have our breakfast, we're gonna start moving around, try to loosen up as much as we can before we head to the starting line.
Confession time, I did a much better job recording on day 1 as opposed to day 2. I think cumulative fatigue played a huge part in that decision, but wanted to give a quick recap of the half marathon and 8K on Sunday. As I mentioned, my legs were beat up going into day 2. I definitely ran the 2 races on day 1 substantially harder than I had anticipated or planned for, although I knew there was a distinct possibility that might happen because I love racing. And despite my legs being so sore waking up Sunday morning, as soon as I started the half marathon, that same feeling started to come back. How fast can I push this? What kind of time can I hope to achieve? The half marathon, obviously the longest of the 4 races, but I was just itching to see what my legs might be able to accomplish despite how fatigued they were from day 1. So the plan going into the half marathon, as with all of these races, was to start slow and just kind of take stock of how my legs are feeling, and then sort of schedule regular check-ins throughout the race where I could either choose to maintain the pace or try to speed up incrementally if I felt like my legs could handle it. For this race, I decided what made the most sense was to try to split the race basically into quarters, or for all intents and purposes, splitting it into quarters. I think I ended up doing a 3-mile segment, 3-mile segment, 4-mile segment, and then finish with another 3-mile segment. The thought process behind that was leaving myself just 5K in the end, which would constitute my final push if I was feeling good. I will say throughout this entire race, it was one of the most mental races I've ever participated in. There was never a point where I was feeling particularly good. And for anyone who's run on tired legs, you can probably sympathize with this, but your legs are just heavy. They don't want to move any faster than they're currently moving. They're tired the whole time. So there's not a real opportunity to kind of zone out and just let flow take over. I was fighting with the pace the entire time. Despite that, I was still able to put up better paces than I was expecting, honestly, and at the halfway point, I was feeling pretty good. Speeding up was feeling okay, so I decided 8K be damned. We are once again going to push through this race as hard as we possibly can. We'll recover as much as we can before the last 8K, but my thought process in the middle of this half marathon was, regardless of how tired I am or how sore I am after this race, it's only 5 miles left. I can struggle through the last 5 miles. I might as well push as hard as I can now to, again, see what my limits are, see just how hard I can push through this race. So the halfway point of the half marathon was really the turning point where I just threw everything out the window and was like, we're almost done, let's just go for it. What those paces actually look like: through the first 3 miles, I was averaging 8:40 per mile. Second 3 miles, I was hovering around 8:35. Through the next 4 miles, I was averaging 8:21 per mile, and for the last 5K, brought it all the way down to 7:47. Average pace overall for the half marathon, 8:22. As I said, that was significantly faster than I had planned for. Once I finished, I had just under an hour, I think, I had to recover before the 8K or that final 5-miler. Just focused on staying as loose as possible, trying to get some fuel in and hydrating as well because it was starting to heat up. Strategy for the race, as I mentioned, there wasn't really one. Start slow as with all of the races, but this was the last race. So of course, what am I gonna do? Push as hard as I can and see just how fast I can put in for the final effort through this final 5 miles. If I thought the half marathon was a mental race, this 8K truly put me to the test. not only was I more sore than I had been through the whole weekend, I already had close to a marathon under my legs. Going out for this 5-mile run, the heat has started to become a factor. I am just exhausted. My legs are screaming, but still we push forward and see exactly what we can accomplish. Started significantly slower than I had actually anticipated because it was a pretty large race. I did not have the energy to try to push my way towards the front of the corral, so I started pretty far back, spent most of the first mile kind of people dodging, trying to find my zone. And then from there, similar to the other races, basically checking in every so often to see how I was feeling. Do I want to speed up? My thought process for this race was just take it mile by mile. 5 miles, not too much to worry about. Let's just knock them off one by one by one, and if we can, negative split. And I think I pulled off a pretty solid result. Through the first mile, 8:46, second mile, 8:37, third mile, 8:24, fourth mile, 8:09, and the final mile coming in at 7:57. It was brutal, but crossing that finish line was absolutely worth it. I could finally relax. I could sit down, not have to worry about letting my legs stiffen up. I could eat whatever I want. I could celebrate with plenty of beer. I was so excited to cross that finish line. All in all, through the weekend, my final times for all 4 races, it was 1 hour and 18 minutes and 8 seconds for the 15K. That is an 8:23 mile. 25:03 for the 5K. That's an 8:04 mile. 1 hour, 50 minutes, 52 seconds for the half. That is an 8:27 mile. And 42:03 for the 8K. That's an 8:28 mile. Something that a lot of folks pointed out to me when I posted all of these results on Instagram was how remarkably consistent all of those performances were across the board, regardless of distance, which I actually was surprised that everything came out relatively even. The funny thing about that, though, was just how different the effort felt for all of those races. If you asked me how I performed during that last 5 miles, I thought I was running so hard. I was pushing the hardest I had all weekend and was barely moving faster than I had for some of the races before. I was just so incredibly sore. And actually, that's my slowest average time for any of the 4 races of the weekend. So just funny how rate of perceived effort really came into play as the weekend wore on. All in all, for the Gasparilla Distance Classic, total time spent running, we are looking at 4 hours, 16 minutes, and 10 seconds. Now, to wrap up, just a few quick notes about the races for anyone considering them. I would say I think the Gasparilla Distance Classic, all 4 races are some of the most well-organized, if not the most well-organized races I have ever participated in. The logistical challenge of running 4 races back to back to back across 2 days using slightly different courses for each one with, I think, around 18,000 runners, they said, total for the weekend. That's a lot of people to move around. They were moving the starting line in between every race. The finish line stayed the same, but adjusting the starting line where people had to set up, where people could get their snacks, etc., porta potties, you name it. The challenge, the logistical challenges of moving all of that stuff around, I was so incredibly impressed with just how smoothly all of that went. And just one note, because I think it is such a challenge for so many races, parking was so unbelievably easy. And I think that's a benefit of the geography of where the race was running and just the layout of Tampa in general. You could park very easily downtown, and obviously downtown Tampa, tons of parking garages, but then the starting line kind of started at the edge of downtown before you cross the bridge over the main Bayshore Boulevard. So the road closures for the course itself had zero impact on anyone's ability to get to the garage. I know such a minor detail, but something that I think can be so stressful on race morning. I could not believe how seamless the parking was and just how easy it was to get to everywhere we needed to be on race morning and also get out and head away from the race afterwards. If you are looking for a unique race experience to motivate you through winter training, I cannot recommend the Gasparilla Distance Classic highly enough. It was such an incredible weekend, such an incredible opportunity, various distances that you can choose from. All of the race courses were incredibly beautiful along Bayshore Boulevard looking out over the water. Also incredibly flat for anyone looking to maybe PR in one of these races. I know the weather in Tampa can be a bit unpredictable this time of year, but for us, it was absolutely perfect. I was also impressed by the spectators. I wasn't sure what to expect. given that you're out on Bayshore. It's kind of a long out and back for most of these courses, but there were pretty stellar crowd support all the way through all of the courses, including the half marathon. So something that I am always excited about. And if you are looking for a particularly unique race challenge, why not attempt to tackle all 4 race distances in one weekend, the Michelob Ultra Challenge at the Gasparilla Distance Classic, and see just how far and how fast your legs can take you.